Jamie Ray Mills, a name that will forever be remembered for the heinous crimes he committed. He killed an innocent couple who did nothing to him but tried to be generous to strangers. Married for 55 years, Floyd and Vera Hill were devoted to each other, with the sprightly 87-year-old Floyd acting as caretaker for 72-year-old Vera, who was diabetic and in poor health. When Jamie Ray Mills and his wife Joanne came knocking on June 24, 2004, asking to use their phone, the couple kindly obliged, only to be viciously attacked a short time later. Jamie Mills ambushed Floyd Hill in the shed, attacking him with a ball-peen hammer, a tire tool and a machete. The women, who were walking toward the home, heard a loud noise, and turned back. Jamie Mills then attacked Vera, hitting her in the back of the head with the hammer, striking her repeatedly until she crumpled to the ground. Floyd Hill died instantly, while Vera Hill clung to life for a few more months, dying from complications brought on by the attack. The Mills were intercepted by law enforcement the following day as they were getting ready to leave their home in a car carrying the items stolen from the Hills and the suspected murder weapons. Prosecutors said the Mills had spent the night before the murders high and smoking meth, and that the couple were looking for a way to get more money for drugs, deciding to rob the Hills because they were known to have cash stashed at home. Mills was convicted of capital murder in the deaths of Floyd Hill, 87, and his wife Vera Hill, 72. Prosecutors said they were attacked on June 24, 2004, at their home in Ginn, about 80 miles northwest of Birmingham, during a robbery where $140 and prescription drugs were stolen. At the 2007 trial, Joanne Mills became the key witness against her common-law husband. She testified that after staying up all night smoking methamphetamine, her husband took her along to the victim's home, where she testified she saw her husband repeatedly strike the couple in the backyard shed. In final appeals, attorneys for Mills, who maintained his innocence at trial, had argued newly obtained evidence showed the prosecution lied about having a plea agreement with Mills' wife to spare her from seeking the death penalty against her if she testified against her husband. Joanne Mills' trial attorney wrote in a February affidavit that before the 2007 trial, he met with the district attorney, who agreed to let her plead guilty to a lesser charge if she testified. On the stand, Joanne Mills said she was only hoping to gain some forgiveness from God by testifying. An Alabama jury convicted Mills in 2007 for the murders of 87-year-old Floyd Hill and 72-year-old Vera Hill, an elderly couple living in Ginn, near the Mississippi border. Two others were also found guilty in the case. Joanne Mills, considered Jamie Mills' wife by common law standards during the trial, and Benji Howe, described as a local drug dealer. In court filings, prosecutors said Jamie Mills and his wife had plotted to steal money and prescription pills from the Hills after killing them. They described the murders as brutal executions, carried out using a machete, tire tool and ball-peen hammer. The Hills' money and prescription drugs were found in Howe's possession when he was eventually arrested as a suspect, and both Jamie and Joanne Mills' arrests came soon afterward, as authorities say they discovered the murder weapons in the trunk of their car. DNA lifted from the tools matched one of the victims, but attorneys for Mills have in more recent years argued that little else existed in the way of concrete evidence linking him to the crime. During the trial, testimony given by Mills' wife helped anchor the prosecution's case. Joanne Mills originally suggested to authorities that Howe had planted the murder weapons in the trunk of her and her husband's car, in an attempt to frame them for killing the Hills. Ultimately, though, she became the prosecution's key witness as they sought to convict Jamie Mills for the crimes. How and why that change happened later emerged as a source of controversy over whether Mills' conviction and death penalty sentence were fair. In his April appeal, Mills shared concerns about the execution itself. Knowing that Alabama's correctional system earned some level of notoriety over the last half-decade or so for botching death row inmates' executions by lethal injection. Kenneth Eugene Smith became the first condemned inmate in the United States put to death by nitrogen hypoxia earlier this year after surviving a botched lethal injection attempt in 2022 in Alabama. Mills has a valid fear that he will be unnecessarily placed on the execution gurney if a stay is in place, while the IV team is not attempting to establish IV access, or while officials transport witnesses to the viewing area, without being given any updates from officials on the status of his cases or the ongoing execution protocol, the judge wrote in the opinion. In its filings to this court, the state has assured us that should Mills be granted a stay while he is on the execution gurney, he will be returned to a holding cell. The state also indicated it has taken steps to accelerate its preparation process to ensure witnesses are transported to the viewing area sooner to limit delays. Jamie Ray Mills was executed Thursday, May 30, 2024. For the 2004 murders of an elderly couple who were bitten to death and robbed of $140 and some medication. Jamie Ray Mills, 50, died by lethal injection at 6:26 p.m., becoming the second inmate executed in the state and the sixth in the country this year. At least another 10 executions and counting are set for the rest of 2024, including 2 more in Alabama. Jamie Mills met with his 2 brothers, sister, a sister-in-law and a spiritual advisor before his execution on Thursday. Some of the family members and Mills' attorney were among those who witnessed the execution. Mills' last meal was an assortment of seafood, including 3 large shrimp, 2 catfish fillets, 3 oysters, 3 onion rings and 1 stuffed crab. Mills, who was strapped to a gurney and could see his witnesses through a large window, used his last words to tell his family how much he loved them, according to Ronnie. "I love my family. I love my brother and sister. I couldn't ask for anything more," Mills said. "I love y'all. Carry on." He prayed with his spiritual advisor for the last time, winked at him, and then faced his witnesses again and gave the thumbs-up sign. He threw a thumbs-up to his family members several times before he lost consciousness as the execution drugs made their way through his system. A consciousness check was conducted by a guard at 6:14 p.m., 7 minutes after the execution began, where he was touched and pinched to see if he was still breathing. By then, he was taking very shallow breaths. Once the execution process apparently began, Mills appeared to show no physical reaction other than closing his eyes. Several of Mills' witnesses sobbed during the execution. He appeared to take his final breath at 6:16 p.m., but wasn't declared dead until 6:26 p.m. Mills was executed in the death chamber of William C. Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore. Warden Terry Rabin read the death warrant. 5 witnesses and 4 media professionals watched the execution. The witnesses were his attorney, a brother, a sister-in-law and a brother-in-law. Mills' body was released to the Escambia County coroner and taken to the mobile lab of the Department of Forensic Sciences for examination. Republican Alabama Governor Kay Ivey said in a statement after the execution that Jamie Mills has paid the price for his heinous crimes and that he was undoubtedly guilty. The Equal Justice Initiative, the law firm representing Mills, said in a statement after the execution that their client asked federal courts to provide some basic protections for him, including limiting the amount of time he had to spend on the execution gurney and to allow his lawyers to be present. Courts rejected these requests, allowing Alabama's unapologetic state officials to once again start a process of killing a human being with uncertainty about what level of torture and cruelty will take place. Thank you for watching Death Row.